Good afternoon, and thank you so much for investing your time with us on a Sunday afternoon. My name is Kevin Long, and I'm an associate professor of theater here at Harper College and the director of our upcoming production of Too Heavy for Your Pocket by Jireh Breon Holder. The play takes place in 1961 when the main character, Bosie Brandon, gives up a life-changing scholarship at Fisk University to join the Freedom Riders as they embarked on their courageous journey into the Deep South. When I arrived at Harper College about 13 years ago, for each of the productions I direct, I started a series that I called Coffee with the Director, where audiences gather with me and our dramaturg an hour before our Sunday afternoon performances to discuss the play or musical, share ideas, providing insights into our process, revealing how we do what we do, and bringing real intellectual depth to our conversations. And I do this so that when audiences see the productions, they have a better sense of appreciation and understanding of the piece they're about to see. So cheers to you. Today is our first virtual coffee with the director. And I want to thank Sue Borchek-Smith from the Cultural Arts Committee. She created a downloadable program for our event this afternoon. The program has complete bios of our panelists, along with information about the Freedom Rides Museum in Alabama and our upcoming production of Too Heavy for Your Pocket. So please do download that information at the end of our program if you haven't already done so. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Rides. And this afternoon, we have a truly inspirational program for you. And through our production, we hope that we will honor the Freedom Riders, our true American heroes who risked their lives to change our country. They boarded buses, planes, trains, and went to the most dangerous places for them in our country and said, "It is my legal right as an American citizen to travel across state lines and sit where I please." They changed our country forever. So with me today from our production is Jeremy Haynes, Harper College student who plays the role of Freedom Rider Bosie Brandon in Too Heavy for Your Pocket. And then joining us are two incredibly special people who have become like family to me and our company. Dorothy Walker, site director of the Freedom Rides Museum in Alabama, and Dr. Bernard LaFayette Jr., an original Freedom Rider, civil rights movement activist, minister, educator, lecturer, and an authority on the strategy of nonviolent social change. And over the next hour, our goal today is to explore the ideas and issues in the play through the first-person account of our hero, Dr. Bernard LaFayette Jr. And we also hope to connect history to what is currently happening in our country today, which is exactly why I felt we needed to see this play now. For as we know, history is relevant to the present. And hopefully our conversation will enhance your viewing of the production next month. But more importantly, we hope to encourage you to think beyond the stage and adopt some of the truly inspirational messages that you're going to hear today into your own lives. During our presentation, please feel free to utilize the chat feature and ask any questions that you may have. We are monitoring the chat, and we hope to answer a few of those questions at the end of our presentation if time permits. And now I want to shift our focus over to Dorothy Walker, who will provide a brief context of what the Freedom Rides involved, what they aimed to accomplish, how this fit in with the aims of Dr. Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement at that time, and then to introduce our hero, our special guest, Freedom Rider, Dr. Bernard LaFayette Jr. So Dorothy, take it away.
Hi, thank you, Kevin. And I want to thank Harper College and everyone who's worked hard to bring this together today. We are super honored and super excited to be with everyone today. As Kevin said, I am the site director for the Freedom Rides Museum. And the Freedom Rides Museum is a historic site operated by the Alabama Historical Commission, which is the state historic preservation office in the state. And so I am going to talk a little bit about the Freedom Rides and then also introduce our featured speaker. So the Freedom Rides were a watershed event that changed the course of American history. Dr. King referred to the Freedom Rides as the psychological turning point in the entire civil rights movement. In May of 1961, the Congress of Racial Equality sent a group of 13 volunteers, an integrated group of men and women, to test compliance with Supreme Court rulings outlawing segregation on interstate buses and in bus stations. This group, known as the organization known as CORE, the CORE group, leaves Washington, D.C. on May 4th, 1961, traveling on Greyhound and Trailways buses, heading through the Deep South, and their destination was New Orleans, Louisiana. The group sets out from D.C. and does not experience significant violence until reaching Alabama on Sunday, May 14th, 1961, which was Mother's Day Sunday. The Greyhound bus is attacked in Anniston, Alabama, and firebombed with Freedom Riders and regular passengers on the bus. And the Freedom Riders that were on the Trailways bus that make it into Birmingham are also attacked. Because of the violence on these nonviolent protesters, they are forced to continue the Freedom Rides to New Orleans by plane. That ends the Freedom Rides, but only temporarily. Members of the Nashville student movement decide they are going to come to Alabama to complete the ride by bus, not letting violence overcome nonviolence. They sign their wills. Some of them call loved ones, some of them don't. Some of them write letters. But 22 students eventually make their way to Alabama to continue the rides from Alabama. Eventually, a deal is worked out between federal and state officials to provide the Freedom Riders, these student Freedom Riders, state police protection between Birmingham and Montgomery. However, when the group arrives here at the Montgomery Greyhound bus station, which is now the Freedom Riders Museum, they are attacked by an angry mob. The Freedom Riders survive and just to face another attack the next day at First Baptist Church, which was pastored by Reverend Ralph Abernathy. Dr. King and other civil rights leaders speak to the Freedom Riders there at the rally, while 3,000 people riot outside of the church. The next few days, the civil rights leaders and the student Freedom Riders meet and decide to continue the Freedom Rides into Mississippi. They leave Montgomery on May 24th, 1961, heading into Mississippi. This time they're going with the protection of the National Guard, which has been federalized by the Kennedy administration. When they get into Mississippi, the Freedom Riders, when they violate the segregation that is still in process at the bus station in Jackson, they are arrested under a charge of breach of peace. Many of them serve up to 40 days in Mississippi jails and infamously in Mississippi's Parchman prison. While there, they are harassed. They're harassed with heat, and the air conditioning is turned on. Their mattresses are taken away. They are subjected to all kinds of harassment and humiliation. However, the Freedom Riders persevere, and in addition, more than 300 others from across the country come to join the rides that summer between May and September of 1961. Because of their courage, all of these individuals, the federal government gets involved in enforcing these laws and outlawing once and for all segregation on interstate buses and bus stations by the end of 1961. The Freedom Riders Museum itself is here to chronicle this history, the history of the rides as well as of the riders, their stories, their courage, their bravery, and to also hopefully inspire others to understand that the rights we have to travel across this country as American citizens was a hard-fought right, but not to take it for granted, but also to remember the ones who fought for this. We've opened the museum in 2011, which was the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Rides. So we have been open for 10 years. And as Kevin mentioned, this year, 2021, marks the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Rides. So we're excited to be participating in this program as part of the 60th anniversary. We hope that everyone will stay tuned for all of the events. We're having a year-long commemoration. So please stay tuned for all of the events that we'll be doing this year. At the Freedom Riders Museum, we present this history through exhibits, But one of our favorite ways to present this history is through living history, through the individuals who made the history. And I am always pleased, privileged, and honored to be able to introduce you to one of those people. So today, I will introduce your featured speaker, Dr. Bernard Lafayette Jr. Dr. Lafayette was born July 29th, 1940 in Tampa, Florida. He grew up in Tampa, but spent some time in Philadelphia as well. At the time of the Freedom Rides, he was a student at American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee. He was a leader in the Nashville student movement there and was involved in all kinds of civil rights activities, even a year before the Freedom Rides. He is one of the student Freedom Riders that arrived here in Montgomery on May 20th, 1961 and was attacked by a mob. He survives, they all survive, and he goes on with the Freedom Riders to Jackson, Mississippi, where he is arrested and spends time in Mississippi's infamous Parchman Prison. After the rides, Dr. Lafayette worked for SCLC, helping numerous campaigns, including in Selma, Alabama in 1963 and in 1965. He stayed in Jackson afterwards to help recruit more Freedom Riders, as well as to organize the Jackson Nonviolent movement. He served as national coordinator for the Poor People's Campaign in 1968 and in the mid-1970s. He helped develop a curriculum for Kingian nonviolence. He has since taught at several colleges and universities, including a seminar scholar in residence at Grand Dyer Divinity School at Emory University. And he is the chair of the National Board of SCLC. So I am pleased and honored to introduce this hero, someone I completely admire, and we are just looking forward to hearing his comments. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin, and he is going to introduce Jeremy.
Dorothy, thank you so much. So now let's turn our attention. This is a phrase Dorothy used while we were preparing for this afternoon, and I loved it. So this is credited to Dorothy. But we want to turn our attention to the star of our play, Jeremy Haynes, in conversation with the star of history, Dr. Bernard Lafayette Jr. And Jeremy's going to help trace the journey of his character, Bosie Brandon's decision to participate in the Freedom Rides with Dr. Lafayette's first-person experiences. And in doing so, we want to honor Dr. Lafayette's sacrifice while illuminating moments of the play. So I'd like to turn over to Jeremy and Dr. Lafayette Jr. Jeremy?
Hello, everyone. So thankful that you are on this call. Very thankful to Dr. Lafayette, Kevin, and Dorothy, just for all of us being able to discuss such an important topic like this. And so, yeah, just to kind of jump right in, one thing that's really awesome about the play is that it touches a lot of things from back in history and right now where we're living. And so one thing that really kicks off the play is Bosie is going to school. He's the first man in our neighborhood to go to school, who's my character. And as he's going and taking these summer classes, he starts to realize, he gets invited to a night meeting by John Lewis and Reverend Lawson.
Correct.
And what ends up happening is that he starts to feel this passion awaken within himself to want to be a part of this change. And so what I would love to talk about Dr. Lafayette is, what was the first experience or first encounter that you had attending this meeting with Reverend Lawson and John Lewis, and how did that inspire you to want to make a change for your country?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you. This is something that I really, really appreciate, and it's so dear to my heart. And I want to thank you for putting this kind of thing together. I always had this desire to bring about change. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but John Robert Lewis, he likes to be called, and I were roommates, and he had started going to these workshops with Jim Lawson Jr. And he said, "Oh, you need to come to these workshops." And I said, "No, I have enough work to do already. I'm the janitor of the second floor. I cook, I wash dishes in the kitchen, especially pots and pans, because I like pot liquor and from the collard greens." Okay. So I was very faithful with that. And then I was the assistant librarian. So I didn't have time for any more work. And John Lewis said, "These workshops is just what we talk about all the time." So it was actually the John Lewis, Congressman Lewis, who persuaded me to go to the workshops. Once I got there and realized that the theology and philosophy and all that sort of thing that we were studying intellectually could be applied immediately to the social conditions that we experienced, I was just flabbergasted.
Mm.
I said, "This is what I want to do."
Mm.
So I forgot about those jobs and started going to this workshop. And all the other work, went aside. So I was really inspired. And there was also C.T. Vivian, and he was my homiletics teacher at the American Baptist Theological Seminary, along with Reverend Kelly Miller Smith Sr. And so they were all there. So my school and my social action participation all blend together.
Mm.
So that made it really exciting for me. And I'd already made a commitment since I was 7 years old that I was going to do something about segregation, specifically on public transportation. Because my grandmother and I had an incident where she fell trying to get on the back door of the streetcar. We were required to do that. And she fell. And I was there trying to hold her and trying to get on the streetcar. And I said something to myself: when I get grown, I'm going to do something about this problem. And I'm told later that everybody, most people, at age 7, there's some incident that you will never forget in your life. Well, I know what mine was, and that was a commitment I made to myself. So getting involved in the movement there in Nashville, getting prepared with the training that John Lewis had introduced me to, and Jim Lawson, I was totally transformed.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I love that, because that's where Bosie finds himself, where he's going to school and then he's going to these meetings and he comes back and he's like, I have to do something about this. I can't keep looking at the world as it is and ignoring what's happening. And so as he jumps into this decision where he's taking his summer classes and then he's going to these secret meetings and coming home late, he finally is confronted with the reality that he has to tell his family and tell his friends. And so that's where the conflict arises into play. He goes on and he tells them, and they feel like it's immediate suicide, that he's getting ready just to give his life away. And it really starts to create tension and conflict. And so in you making this decision to be a part of the Freedom Rides and to give up schooling, how did that affect your family? Were they supportive of that? How did that situation turn out?
Well, once I got involved in the sit-ins, it meant that I got arrested. And also at one point I was beaten at the Greyhound bus station because we were desegregating the lunch counters at the Greyhound bus station at the same time we were doing the department stores in Nashville. So we desegregated the Greyhound bus station in 1960, before the Freedom Ride started. So I was going to go on the Freedom Rides, and I needed parental permission from CORE because I was not 21. So my father had received the information, and I needed him to sign giving me parental permission. And he said to me, no. He said, do you think I'm going to sign your death warrant? Oh,
Mm.
so he did not go along with it. So it was only after Dorothy mentioned about the Freedom Rides being stopped in Anniston, Alabama, and Birmingham that I was able to go without parental permission. We did not have parental permission. And my father said, well, that's going to be the end of the Lafayettes because I had only sisters during that period. So his
Wow.
response was he went and had another boy. I have a brother 22 years younger than I am.
Wow. He really wanted to keep the family alive.
Give it up on me.
Well, that's exactly how Bosey's family feels, his friends and his family. They feel like he's giving away his life and he's giving away his schooling. But Bosey feels like it's something so much deeper that he has to be a part of this change. And so as he starts to get on these rides and he starts to ride down through the South, there's this incident that takes place in Alabama. He talks about where they see the Klan and they're throwing Coke bottles and they're really starting this. He's starting to feel the agitation and starting to feel the fear that's starting to take place. And I know you had a situation in Montgomery, I believe, in Alabama. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that all unfolded?
Well, two incidents. One was in the bus station in Birmingham. That's where we wanted to continue the Freedom Rides. And every time we would go and we were in the white waiting room, and we would go and try to get on the bus. We had our tickets, and the bus driver was the one that refused to drive.
Mm.
The policemen didn't try to stop us, but the bus driver refused to drive. So here we were, Freedom Riders, but we couldn't drive the bus. Okay. So we didn't go. I fell asleep in the waiting room. And all of a sudden, while I was asleep, one of the Klan members had swarmed the bus station, went and got some cold water out of one of those water machines, okay, water coolers, and got that cold water and threw on my face while I was asleep. And I jumped up and I looked at him. At first, I thought I was dreaming,
Mhm.
but then I realized that. Then the place was full with the Klan. I mean, all the white robes and things, and there was only one Klans member with a black robe. He was called the Imperial Wizard, and he had a serpent, on the back of his black robe. Yes, so he was like the leader of the group. Well, I looked around and saw this place flooded with white robes and Klansmen. I'd never seen that before. And this Klansman looked at me after throwing that water in my face to see what my reaction was going to be. I've been trained in nonviolence.
Mhm.
Okay. So you know what my reaction was? Thank you. I thanked him for throwing that cold water on me because I didn't need to be asleep surrounded by Klansmen. So he did me a big favor. But going down to Montgomery was another whole scene. And we got off the bus there. And all of this protection that we had, that Dorothy was talking about, they disappeared when we got to the city limits of Montgomery. And I realized that there was something peculiar because the streets were empty, no people on the streets. Saturday morning, no people there. So I said, oh my goodness, we don't know what's going to happen next. And then all of our protection disappeared, the helicopters and everybody, okay, all the state troopers and stuff like that left. And this state trooper who was on the bus, and there's a picture that Dorothy has right behind her of this on the bus, and he had a drawn bayonet. So I stood up and told the Freedom Riders, I said, now we don't know what's going to happen. See, things looked So I was one of the spokesmen for the group. And I told the Freedom Riders, I said, find somebody and stick with them no matter what happens. There'll be somebody who's with you if we get separated. Because a mob attack, you don't know where you're going to end up. And I said that if you can't, we can't find ourselves together, just go to First Baptist Church. And we're going to meet there because there's going to be a mass meeting there that night. And that would be a safe haven. So, that man who you saw there with the drawn bayonet told me to sit down and to shut up. And so I stood up and looked at him. And I was a little skinny fellow, in those days. And I looked straight up at him and I told him, I said, you are in charge of the troops. I'm in charge of the Freedom Riders. And he was so stunned to have this, I'm sure he was Alabamian, and he had this little skinny black fellow, confronting him, and telling him what he's supposed to do. I could tell in his face, he didn't know how to respond because he hadn't had any experience like that. So he just shut up. So that was a couple of unique experience. I can tell you more about what happened in Birmingham and Montgomery. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's one thing that I love that you said, that I heard you say. You said about fear. You talked about it's not about having no fear. It's about having more courage than you have. And I think that's something that's so important and so valuable to know, especially when you were going through situations like that, and how your nonviolence training would kick in and whatnot. Now, I know at the beginning of the meeting we played the song "Buses Are Coming," and so can you tell us the story behind that? That's one of my favorite stories. So can you share that?
Oh yes, I would love to. One of the reasons we hopped, those of us in Nashville, continued the Freedom Rides. We dropped out of school, in the midst of our final exams. We didn't even finish our final exams. And the reason why is because we wanted to pave the way, so others would be able to follow. And so therefore we had to do it before they left school, because once school's out, people go in so many different directions, it's hard to, do that. So we went ahead in order to be able to make sure that others know what to do when they finish their exams. And as we went, we had to be prepared. Now, the whole issue of fear that you talked about is one that's very important, because fear and anger are two things that you must be able to control. And that's what the nonviolent training is all about, helping people learn how to use their resources. And sometimes, anger can be a resource that you might use, but you have to direct that not against yourself and not against other people, but against the issue that you're focusing on. And so it's okay to be angry, because that's a real important emotion, but you must be able to control it so it doesn't harm you and doesn't harm the other person. So as we continued, on the Freedom Rides, we had to be able to manage that as we went along. Yeah.
So with the song "Buses Are Coming," and when you were on that ride and you're dealing with that fear, but then you're also realizing how to direct it and to manage it, how did that whole song and all that, how did that take place?
Well, when we arrived in Jackson, Mississippi, we wanted the jailers to realize that we were not the only freedom riders. Now we had to wait until the others finished their classes and everything, you know,
Hmm.
but they thought they had captured the freedom riders, and we wanted them to know that others were coming, that this was not over. And I'm glad we have this opportunity, because I wanted to say that Jackson, Mississippi was what you would call in the military, and we drew from many different sources now. That's why Martin Luther King was what you call eclectic.
Mm.
He even drew from the military,
Mhm.
certain tactics and stuff. Some of our staff people in SCLC
Hmm.
from the military, Hosea Williams, even Jim Bevel. He was a gunner on the Navy ship.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you learn lessons from different strategies. So Jackson, Mississippi, when we went to jail there, that became our beachhead,
Mm.
where the final battle was going to be won.
Mhm.
Because see, had we gone to New Orleans right away, hey, it would have been over with, like they
Mhm.
did do on the airplane that Dorothy mentioned, that they decided to finish the Freedom Rides by taking the rest of them on to New Orleans on an airplane. But those of us in Nashville, we believe that you have your battles on the ground. And so we wanted to make sure that we continued and not allowed that. So we welcomed the opportunity to be jailed in Jackson, Mississippi. Now, the reason we stayed as long as we did was because after we were convicted, okay, each of us were individually convicted, we had what they call an appeal period. An appeal period in Jackson, Mississippi, or in Mississippi during that period, was 40 days.
Mm.
If you were found guilty and you didn't put up a bond to appeal your conviction within 40 days, then you had to serve out your term.
Mm. Wow.
Yes. So that's why we got out of jail the 39th day.
Mhm.
Wow.
And we did have to put up an appeal bond.
Mhm.
So all of us had to put out appeal bonds when we got out of jail. But we were singing to the jailers the first day. And I know Dorothy is waiting for me to sing.
I am waiting for you to sing.
So we looked around and we started singing. Buses are a-coming, oh yes. Buses are a-coming, oh yes. Buses are a-coming, buses are a-coming, buses are a-coming, oh yes. Better get you ready, oh yes. We're talking to the jailers. Better get you ready. Oh, the jailer says, stop all that hollering and shouting in here. This ain't no playhouse. This the jailhouse. We said, loaded with those freedom riders. Oh, yes.
Come on.
Loaded with those freedom riders. Oh, yes. Loaded with those freedom riders. Loaded with those. He said, all right, damn it. The Mississippi language, you know.
Yeah, right.
You boogers, if I hear one more peek out of you boogers, we gonna take those mattresses.
Mm.
And they had already overcrowded, and two of us were sleeping on one mattress, you know, and it was a single mattress. So we did head for toe. Your head down here, my toe down here. And then we had an invisible line down the middle of the mattress.
It was the equator. Don't cross it.
We didn't care about those mattresses anyway. We started piling up the mattress and said, you can take our mattress. Oh, yes. And we piled them up the door. You can take our mattress. And then they open up the door and we put all the mattress out, you know, because they're going to need them for other folks who coming, you know. So we dumped them out of there. We didn't need that. And so the jailers, they were smart, they're not dumb. All right. They know how to deal with, convicts and inmates. And all of us, and that's one of the things that people need to know, the young folk, if you're going to end up going to jail, take a toothbrush with you so you have your, be able to brush your teeth, for your breath and everything. Especially if you're going to be singing, you need to have your toothbrush. So the jailer said, all right, done it. I can play this game better than you. If I hear another peek out of you, I'm going to take those toothbrushes. Whoa. So somebody say, you can take our toothbrush. We said, wait a minute. Hold it. We have to have a Quaker consensus. So we all got together and we discussed it. And I came up with the idea of, if we're going to be singing on top of each other, we're already crowded and everything. We got to find a way not to be breathing on each other. So I told him, I said, okay, I know we got to give up these toothbrushes because we're going to continue to sing. So I said, well, take the middle of your lips, the middle part of your lip, and put together. Okay, and leave the corners open. You can take a toothbrush. Oh, yeah. You can take a toothbrush. Oh, yes. You can take a toothbrush. You can take a toothbrush. We will keep our freedom. Oh, yeah.
Wow. That story every time.
That is awesome.
It's amazing. I think one thing that really resonates with me about the play, it's really funny when Kevin and I were talking about it and working through it, we were working on it kind of before quarantine, and last year was my final. I was using it as a monologue, and we were both so stunned how it bore so much relevance with back then and right now, especially what we were seeing last year with all the racial injustice and everything that was taking place. And it hit home. I'm not a big crier, but I read it and I was just like bawling. I was like, what is going on? But I knew it was really hitting, it was striking a chord with me. And one thing I love how you demonstrate something, even just in that story that you were talking about, is you demonstrate the feeling of, okay, this is not right, this is injustice, but how we respond to it is important. And so I love how you talked about like nonviolence and what that training really looked like and how that resonated with you. And it's funny because Bosie in the play, he's thrown into Parchman prison, like the worst prison at the time. And because you spent some time there, and having to realize what does it look like to approach this nonviolence. And also when you were there, how did that affect you? But then also, how did your faith, because faith is a big part of this play, how did your faith inspire you to keep going? And how did that all come together with the nonviolence and just your resolve to keep championing the cause of social change?
Mm-hmm. Well, because of the training we had, we could endure and the confrontations that we experienced. In fact, while we were in jail in Jackson, I just remembered that was a place where I was arrested while I was in jail. Okay, already. So, because I asked a buddy of mine who was a police officer to add up my number of arrests, and it came out to be 27 times I was in jail.
Wow.
But I said, no, I added them up and I was arrested 30 times. So 3 of those times I was already in jail. Okay. So I have to go through the process again. Did you know that? Yeah. So anyway, one of the things that happened with that first group that went in, we ended up in 4 different facilities. The city jail, we transferred to Raymond, Mississippi, which was a county jail. They beat us up out there, so they brought us back to the county jail, and then to Parchman. And James Farmer, who was the leader of the Freedom Rides and that sort of thing, okay, from CORE, he was director of the Freedom Rides. I was his cellmate in Parchman.
Mm.
Yeah, so we got a chance. In his book, when he refers to Lil Gandhi, that's who he's talking about, me. Because I was little in those days too. Okay. I was at Stokely Carmichael was my cellmate one time, and we didn't sleep because we argued all night, about nonviolence and stuff like that. Yeah, and C.T. Vivian.
Mhm.
Yeah, C.T. Vivian. He was my cellmate. In fact, he was my first cellmate because when we got in jail, that verdict, we were doing puns. He and I were very close in terms of our birthdays. He was July 30th, and as Dorothy mentioned, I was July 29th. So we shared a very close birthday. But we also had a lot more in common, and we used to love to do puns.
Mhm.
So it was our time to go and go to the court after we got there on the Freedom Ride in Jackson. And the jailer tried to get us to come, to go to court because they're going for the trial. 'Cause each individual had a trial. And C.T. Vivian turned around and looked at him and says, "Wait just a minute. We can't go now because we're doing puns." The jailer didn't know what a pun was. So he stepped back from that. He might have gone to get us some paper or so, yeah, that kind of paper. We're doing these puns. So, but the other thing I want to mention, when we were in Jackson, Mississippi, and Dorothy's heard this before too, we got ice cream at night in the county jail because we would sing and entertain the night warden. And the night warden would be sitting there watching his black and white television and with the coat hanger on the top of it. And he would send a trustee out. And the trustee was an inmate who you could send out and you trust him to come back. Okay. So he would send him out to get the ice cream for him. Those little pints of ice cream used to be in those little cartons.
Mhm.
And we used to sing and entertain him. He hadn't had that before. You couldn't get that on TV. What we were given,
And it wasn't in black and white. It was in color.
That's right.
That's right.
They had that. Give me that material. Okay, that material I'm gonna use. And we were singing. And so the jailer used to ease up down the aisle, and we could see him from the window on top, his reflection. And he would listen to what we were singing. And you know what he did? He sent the trustee out and bought ice cream for us, little pints of ice cream, put it in a mop bucket, put the dry mop on top, rolled it down all to our cell block. We would stick our hands through the bars, get that ice cream, eat it, put the thing back in the carton back into the mop bucket, and the trustee would roll it back again. He had a daughter who was in 11th grade, and nobody in his family going to college. What better way to find out how to get in college when you got a whole cell block full of college students? Yeah. So we made real good friends with him. In fact, when we got ready to leave to go to Parchman, he stood there and shook every one of our hands.
Come on.
Wow.
The night jailer. And you know what he said? Y'all come back to see me here.
I don't think so.
We didn't make any promises.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. What I love about what you mentioned, and it goes back to that idea of nonviolence and how important that is, because that was one thing that we encountered this year or last year when we were protesting. My brother Joe, who plays Tony, he led one of the second largest protests in Los Angeles. And I'm talking about being right there with the police, thousands of people, barriers. And there's this video of my brother. He's on his knees and he's praying. He's praying. He's asking God to move and do something. And I think it's beautiful because a lot of people, they try to disconnect the movement from faith, and it's impossible. Because you look at nonviolence, you look at leaders such as yourself, and that was the fuel that helped you all fight for something so powerful. And I always tell people, I'm like, the perfect model for nonviolence was Jesus, and how he went to the cross and he had his hands wide open, had his hands up. He had his hands up for all of humanity. And as he's there on the cross trying to save the people that are killing him, he doesn't offer judgment. He doesn't offer condemnation, but he looks at them. The Bible says he could have called down a legion of angels, but he looks at them with compassion and empathy in his heart. And his anger that he had was not against them, but it was righteous. So he put it in the right direction. And he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I love how we see this integration, and even how the jailer, how he was impacted just by your love. Y'all could have been in there cussing, being loud, being rowdy, but you had such an impact on him. And that was a part of really, really not even just desegregating stations, desegregating the cars and the buses, but you were really in the process of desegregating hearts. Because what is it for you to go and you do all these things and people are like, okay, cool, they desegregated buses, but we still hate these people. But you guys showed a love that was beyond words. It was actions. It was faith put into action. And so one thing that I love that we talked about in 1 Peter 2, verse 21 through 24, it says, for God called you to do good, even if it means suffering, just as Christ suffered for you. He is your example and you must follow in his steps. He never sinned, nor ever deceived anyone. He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly. He personally carried on his sins in his body on the cross so that we can be dead to sin and live for what is right. And I love that, because even with you all, you can say that you carried those bruises and those broken bones and you carried that in your body, but you knew you were fighting for something that was more powerful. And even when I was in Chicago and we were leading protests, there was that threat of you don't know what's going to happen, but the resolve was so much greater. Hey, if we're going to suffer for what we believe in, for rights and also our faith, that's big to Bosie and that's big to me. And I love just moving forward that we can't disconnect those two, because I always tell people, I say, if we replace white supremacy with black supremacy, we end up with the same oppression in a different form. But when we look at what is happening in this day and time and we approach it with love, we approach the change that we need to make with love and with power and with passion, we can see not just racism being eradicated from structures, but racism being eradicated from souls and from the human heart. And so this play has impacted me so much, and your story and your contribution to history. I always tell young people that we can't just move forward and be like, oh, okay, we need to make a difference, without honoring those that have put us in the position and have paved the way for us to make a difference, to continue to champion those cause of human rights and social change. And so thank you so much for that. And I really encourage everyone that's on this to go and watch the play, because I can tell you it will do something in your heart. And if you're open to it, whether you have biases that you know about or biases that you don't, I'm telling you, your heart will be opened, and you better get you ready, because we coming.
And you don't have to worry. I got the bond money for him. For him preaching without a license.
Oh my gosh.
That was serious. That was serious preaching.
It was beautiful. Your words are meaningful and beautiful and inspirational. Dorothy, I don't know, was there anything we're getting close to our time. Is there anything in our chat that you think might be a good question to ask?
So there's a good question just popped up in the chat and said, for Dr. LaFayette, Do you ever regret or second guess your decision to go on the Freedom Ride? And if you did doubt it, how did you overcome that doubt? That's a question from someone in the chat.
Oh, well, no, I didn't, because one of the things I want to say, and I want my wife to stick her head over here
Hello there.
because she's really,
How are you?
We are
My
good. It's so
inspiration.
blessed to see you.
Yeah,
Good to see you.
my inspiration, yeah.
Yes.
One of the things that I want to make clear is that I never had any doubt, or because I realized that we had already gone on the Freedom Rides back in 1960.
Mm,
John Lewis and I,
mm,
from Nashville, we'd already desegregated the bus station in Nashville. So you could ride from Virginia all the way to Nashville on a segregated bus, Greyhound bus. But once you got to Nashville, you walked into an integrated bus station.
mm, mm, mm,
Mm.
mm.
The other thing is that John Lewis and I, that Christmas holiday of 1960, we desegregated the Greyhound bus.
Mm.
I sat behind the driver
That's right.
going home, and that's what Barack Obama was talking about at John Lewis's his eulogy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was talking about, okay? And this was in 1960. And John Lewis sat on the other side, and he was going to Troy, Alabama, and I was going to Florida. My bus changed in Tallahassee, okay? But we had the same bus all the way down. Now, at first, the bus driver tried to make us sit in the back, and we refused.
Good.
Mm.
And this was before the Freedom Rides now.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went into the bus station and tried to get the policeman to come out. But why would a policeman come out of an integrated bus station to try to force somebody
Mhm.
to sit on a segregated bus? Okay.
Right.
No. So we rode all the way. And we got to Troy. It was at night. And when we got to Troy, Alabama, John Lewis, that's where he was going to get off there, in Troy. And I remember that feeling right now when I said goodbye, because I didn't know whether I would see him again. It was at night.
Mm.
But then when I immediately thought about it, I was on the bus by myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so from Troy, Alabama, all the way down to Tallahassee, and they were making stops along the way with this mean bus driver. I didn't know what he had, planned for me, So I was just very grateful to go there. But the point is, no, never had any regret or any fears, because I did that.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, doing it again for me was going on the Freedom Rides sponsored by CORE. Okay. And when I applied, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't get parental permission, and then we took it up after the battles. But we were determined that we would, and remember, I had an early experience with my grandmother
Right.
about the transportation. So I have already made up in my mind when I get grown, okay, that I was going to do something. And so I never had any regrets. I firmly believed that we were going to succeed in what we were trying to do.
Mm.
Now, here's the irony of the whole thing. While we were going into Montgomery, Alabama on the Freedom Rides, interstate travel, the local people in Montgomery, Alabama, came to the bus station on an integrated local bus.
That's right, because boycott had happened in 1955. That's right.
Yep. Wow.
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 Wow. Wow.
So much history.
Yeah.
So what's
So
going
much
on?
history.
There is a law that also prohibits Black people from riding the bus on an intrastate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
going from one city to another within the same place. But guess what? Do you remember that law being repealed, Dorothy?
Intrastate law?
Intrastate law.
I don't remember exactly when, yes.
You remember when it was appealed and it was struck down?
I don't remember exactly the date, but
So therefore, okay, it was still in place when we desegregated the interstate travel.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, there's just so much history, so much history. And I
Yeah.
hope people will check out information from the Freedomized Museum, and also Dr. Lafayette's book has a lot of detail about his story, because we only got just a few snippets of it, but there's so much more to his story. So I hope people will check the book out. We do sell it here at the Freedomized Museum.
Yes, purchase it through the museum. Yes.
Great.
Well, that's a
But
great.
there's so much history. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Kevin.
Yeah, I say it just is amazing. And I just, since we're at our time here, I just want to move into some personal thank yous. And first, Dr. Lafayette and Jeremy and Dorothy, thank you so much for providing us with such an inspirational afternoon. And I really do hope that I know that people's hearts were changed and moved by the stories that you shared and the work that you did for our country. So thank you for that. I also want to thank our dramaturg, Mary Christel, who worked hard to help us focus this event for this afternoon. You have not seen Chelsea Lynn. She's our technical director behind the scenes, helping us get things set up and organized technically. I want to thank the Cultural Arts Committee, in particular the chair of that committee at Harper College, Kurt Hemmer, and Secretary Sue Borchek-Smith for their support in all ways for today's production. And finally, we want to thank you for joining in our conversation this afternoon. And we hope that you feel inspired and uplifted. We hope you want to come back in a month to view our production of Too Heavy for Your Pocket. It runs April 21st through April 25th. Our actors will be performing live in the Black Box Theater here on campus, while we live stream the performance out into your homes. And after today's event, we'll showcase a slide which will contain the link to Harper College's arts calendar, where you can then purchase your tickets for the production. So thank you all. Thank you, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.